The day I found out my husband was leaving me, I was standing in our kitchen holding three things: a positive pregnancy test, my father's death certificate, and divorce papers. It was like the universe had decided to play a cosmic joke, delivering life, death, and betrayal all within 24 hours. "I'm sorry, Emma," Daniel said, not meeting my eyes as I stared at the papers he'd slid across our marble countertop. "I can't do this anymore." I pressed one hand against my still flat stomach, the other trembling as I set down my father's death certificate. "You're leaving me? Today? My father just died, and I just found out I'm pregnant." "I know." His voice was hollow, rehearsed. "Tracy told me." The name hit me like a physical blow. Tracy. My obstetrician. My friend. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity: the late nights at the hospital, the unexplained weekends away at medical conferences, the subtle change in how he smelled when he came home. "How long?" I whispered. Daniel ran his hand through his thick dark hair, the same gesture that had made me fall for him in med school 8 years ago. "Emma, does it matter?" "How long?" Each word felt like glass in my throat. 2 years. 2 years. Half of our marriage. While I was trying to conceive, while I was mourning my mother's death, while I was supporting his career. 2 years of lies sleeping beside me in our bed. "She's pregnant too," he added, and the room began to spin. For months along. I gripped the counter to steady myself. "And you're choosing her?" It wasn't a question, but he answered anyway. "I love her, Emma. I'm sorry, but this isn't working anymore. You've been so distant since your mom died, always busy with your father's care, and then with the fertility treatments, we just grew apart." Grew apart. As if our marriage had simply wilted like an unwatered plant, rather than being poisoned by his infidelity. "My father died yesterday," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I'm 6 weeks pregnant. And you're serving me divorce papers because your mistress is pregnant too." He had the decency to look ashamed, but only briefly. "I've already moved most of my things to her place. The papers are fairly standard, we split our assets." "I'm not trying to be cruel, Emma. I'll pay child support, of course." Child support. Like our baby was already just a financial obligation. "Get out," I whispered. "Emma. Get out." I screamed, picking up the nearest object, a crystal vase he'd given me for our anniversary last year, and hurling it against the wall. It shattered spectacularly, water and roses exploding across our pristine white walls. Walls we'd painted together when we bought this house, dreaming of the family we would raise here. After he left, I sank to the kitchen floor, surrounded by broken glass and scattered rose petals. My phone rang, my father's lawyer, again. I'd been avoiding his call since Dad's unexpected heart attack yesterday, unable to face the reality of being completely alone in the world now. I hadn't even processed Dad's death yet, hadn't had time to grieve the man who raised me alone after Mom died when I was in college. The man who had always seemed so ordinary, a mid-level insurance executive who lived modestly in the same small house my entire life. The man who had apparently been hiding something enormous. When I finally answered the lawyer's call, his words made no sense at first. "I understand this is a difficult time, Mrs. Chen, but as the sole beneficiary of your father's estate, there are pressing matters that require your attention. The holdings are extensive and some require immediate management decisions." "What holdings?" "My dad had a house and a pension. Maybe some savings." There was an uncomfortable pause. "Mrs. Chen, your father's assets are valued at approximately $3.2 trillion. He was, arguably, the wealthiest man in the world. And now, you are." The phone slipped from my fingers, clattering to the floor as darkness edged my vision. My ordinary, humble father, a secret trillionaire? It was impossible. Absurd. And yet, as I recalled his mysterious business trips, the strange calls he would take in other languages, the way he seemed to know influential people everywhere we went, had I ever really known him at all? I picked up the phone with numb fingers. There must be some mistake. No mistake, Mrs. Chen. Your father was extraordinarily careful about his privacy. Even most of his business associates were unaware of the full extent of his holdings. He operated through layers of shell corporations and trusts. But he left everything, to you. I thought of Daniel, walking out our door moments ago, choosing another woman, another child, believing he was leaving behind a devastated, newly poor widow. The irony was almost too much to bear. Mrs. Chen, the lawyer prompted. There's one more thing. Your father left a letter for you, with specific instructions that it be delivered today. I can have it sent over immediately. As I hung up, I placed both hands on my stomach, feeling a strange calm descend. In the space of 24 hours, I had lost my father and my husband, discovered I was pregnant, and apparently become the richest woman on the planet. The game had changed. And Daniel had no idea what he'd just walked away from, or who he'd just made an enemy of. My father had secrets. Perhaps I had inherited more from him than just his money. Before I continue, subscribe to this channel. My father's letter arrived in a simple white envelope, delivered by a severe-looking woman in an impeccable suit who introduced herself as Vivian Zhao, my father's chief of security. Security? I echoed, clutching the envelope with trembling fingers. My eyes were still swollen from crying, and I probably looked like a disaster in my bathrobe at 3 in the afternoon. Your father employed a team of 57 security specialists worldwide, Vivian explained, her expression softening slightly. I've personally overseen your protection detail for the past 15 years. I blinked. My protection detail? Perhaps you should read the letter, Ms. Chen. I'll wait outside. Alone in my kitchen, the broken glass and roses now cleaned up, I opened the envelope and unfolded the single page inside, instantly recognizing my father's meticulous handwriting. My dearest Emma. If you're reading this, I've left this world sooner than I'd hoped. I'm sorry for the secrets I've kept from you. Everything I did was to protect you from the dangers that come with the kind of wealth and power I've accumulated. You were never meant to bear this burden so young or so unprepared. But you are stronger than you know, you are your mother's daughter and mine. Trust Vivian with your life. She's been watching over you since you were 12. The others you can trust are listed in the red file she carries. There is more to tell you, but not in writing. Go to our spot, the place where we scattered your mother's ashes. The key to understanding everything is there. Remember, in our family, love has always been our greatest strength, but also our greatest vulnerability. Choose wisely who you let into your heart from now on. I love you, my little phoenix. Rise from these ashes. Dad. I pressed the letter to my chest, tears streaming down my face. Our spot, the small, secluded cove on the northern California coast where we'd said goodbye to my mother 5 years ago. We'd spent the day there alone, just Dad and me, watching the sunset as we scattered her ashes into the Pacific. When I opened my front door, Vivian was standing guard, her posture perfect, eyes constantly scanning the street. I need to go to Half Moon Bay, I said. She nodded once. The car is ready. Do you need time to change? 20 minutes later, I was in the back of a sleek black SUV with darkened windows, wearing jeans and a sweater, my hair hastily pulled back. As we pulled away from the curb, I noticed a second identical SUV following us. Is that your backup security team? Vivian confirmed from the front passenger seat. Standard protocol now that you've been identified as Robert Chen's daughter and heir. Identified? By whom? Vivian's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. News of your father's death hit certain financial circles immediately. The vultures are already circling. Your husband's lawyer filed the divorce petition electronically 90 minutes ago. The pain of Daniel's betrayal hit me fresh. How do you know that? We monitor everything concerning you, Ms. Chen. Including your husband's indiscretions. My hands curled into fists. You knew he was cheating. Your father knew. He wanted to tell you, but... She paused. He believed some truths had to be discovered personally to be truly accepted. Anger flared hot in my chest. So you all just watched while he betrayed me? While he slept with my doctor behind my back? Your father had a plan in motion. He was going to reveal everything to you next month, on your birthday. Her voice softened. He didn't expect to die, Ms. Chen. And he certainly didn't expect Dr. Hamilton to choose this moment to leave. Dr. Hamilton. Not Daniel anymore, but a clinical name for the clinical way he'd cut me out of his life. Did my father have him investigated? I asked. Vivian handed back a thin red folder. This contains the names of those you can trust. The blue folder contains those you cannot. Your husband is on page 1. The blue folder was substantially thicker than the red. I opened it with shaking hands. There was Daniel's photograph, attached to a detailed report. As I skimmed the contents, my stomach turned to ice. Subject maintains communications with Westlake Pharmaceuticals, payments totaling $3.4 million received over 4-year period, targeted subject's daughter based on financial projections of inheritance, Mistress Tracy Collins complicit in scheme. They targeted me. I whispered. Because of my father. Your father believed Dr. Hamilton initially pursued you in medical school under his own initiative. The Westlake connection came later, after they identified you as Robert Chen's daughter. They've been trying to access your father's pharmaceutical patents for years. The SUV wound along the coastal highway, but I barely noticed the spectacular ocean views. My entire relationship with Daniel had been a lie. Not just the past 2 years of his affair, but all 8 years we'd been together. Did he ever love me at all? I asked, more to myself than to Vivian. That's not a question security intelligence can answer, she replied, but her eyes held unexpected compassion. When we reached the small, private beach, accessible only through a hidden path down the cliffs, Vivian and 2 security personnel accompanied me to the shore. I need to do this alone, I said when we reached the sand. Vivian looked uncomfortable. Ms. Chen. Please. Just give me some space. Stay within sight if you must. The beach was exactly as I remembered it, a perfect crescent of sand, sheltered by towering cliffs, the waves crashing against the rocks. This is where Dad and I had stood arm in arm, saying goodbye to Mom as the sun set. I walked to the large, flat rock where we had sat afterward, talking about Mom's life rather than her death. Dad had seemed so ordinary then, a grieving husband, a loving father. Not a man with unimaginable wealth and power. I ran my hands over the rock's surface, feeling nothing unusual, then looked underneath. There, secured to the bottom with waterproof tape, was a small metal box. I pried it loose with trembling fingers. Inside was a single key and a handwritten note. The truth is in storage unit 1108, Paradiso Security, San Francisco. As I stood there, waves crashing around my feet, something shifted inside me. The devastation of Daniel's betrayal and my father's death still burned, but beneath it, something harder was forming, a core of determination, of rage. I was carrying a child, my father's grandchild. We were the last of the Chen family. And I would make damn sure that those who had betrayed us would pay. I placed my hand on my stomach and made a promise to my baby, to my father, to myself. They thought I was just a pawn in their game, I whispered to the wind and waves. But they forgot something important, even pawns can become queens. When I returned to Vivian waiting at the edge of the beach, my eyes were dry. I need to go to Paradiso Security in San Francisco, I said. And then I need everything you have on Westlake Pharmaceuticals and on Dr. Tracy Collins. Vivian's eyes widened slightly, perhaps recognizing the change in my voice. Of course, Ms. Chen, she said, a hint of approval in her tone. And what would you like us to call you now? Mrs. Hamilton or Ms. Chen? I thought of the family name my father had protected so carefully, the legacy he had built in secret. Chen, I said firmly. Emma Chen. Before I continue, subscribe to this channel. Storage Unit 1108 at Paradiso Security wasn't a storage unit at all. It was a bunker. The facility itself looked ordinary enough from outside, a high-end storage complex in an industrial part of San Francisco. But when the elevator descended 6 floors below ground level, I knew this was something else entirely. Your father maintained secure locations in 27 countries, Vivian explained as the doors opened to reveal a steel corridor. This was his primary information vault in North America. My key fit into a biometric scanner that also required my fingerprint and a retinal scan. He set this up for me. I asked as the massive door swung open silently. For this exact scenario, Vivian confirmed. Though he hoped you'd be here under different circumstances, with him guiding you. The room inside was surprisingly comfortable, more like a high-tech living room than a bunker. Bookshelves lined one wall, a sleek computer setup dominated another, and in the center was a simple wooden table with a single envelope bearing my name. "I'll give you privacy," Vivian said, stepping out. Alone, I opened the envelope with shaking hands. "Emma. If you're reading this, I'm gone before my time. I'm sorry for the weight I've placed on your shoulders. The computer contains everything, the true extent of Chen Global Holdings, all passwords, all accounts, all protocols. Your fingerprints and DNA will grant you access. There is also a complete dossier on every person who has ever tried to gain access to our family's work through you. What I couldn't tell you in life was that your mother's research was the foundation of everything we built. Her work on cellular regeneration didn't just treat disease, it revolutionized medicine. But there were elements too dangerous to release without proper safeguards. The patents I've protected aren't just valuable, they're world-changing. Westlake Pharmaceuticals has been trying to steal them for a decade. When they identified you as my daughter, they set their plan in motion. The hardest truth, your husband's medical career was financed by them from the beginning. Before he even met you. Nothing about your relationship was accidental. I'm sorry, my Phoenix. The flash drive contains proof of everything. Trust only those in the red folder. Remember that power comes not from wealth, but from how you wield it. All my love, always. Dad. I sank into the chair, the letter fluttering from my fingers. Even knowing Daniel had targeted me, I'd secretly hoped some part of our relationship had been real. Now I knew better. Every kiss, every promise, every moment of our life together had been calculated. I plugged in the flash drive, and the screen filled with surveillance photos, financial transactions, recorded phone calls. Daniel reporting to his Westlake handlers about me. Tracy, my own doctor, discussing how to manipulate my fertility treatments to gain access to my genetic material. They'd been trying to reverse engineer my family's genetic code, believing the key to my mother's research might be hidden in our DNA. Then I saw it, a video of Daniel in bed with Tracy from 2 years ago, the exact timing matching a night when I'd been at my father's bedside after a minor health scare. "I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore," Tracy said in the recording. Daniel laughed. "Just a little longer. Once we have what we need, and the old man dies, we'll be set. Emma won't know what hit her." I slammed the laptop closed, bile rising in my throat. Tears burned behind my eyes, but something else burned hotter, pure, clarifying rage. I pressed the intercom. "Vivian?" She appeared instantly. "Yes, Ms. Chen. I need a secure phone, immediate access to all my father's accounts, and a meeting with his executive team. Today." Her lips curved in a slight smile. "Already arranged. The team is assembled at Chen Tower, waiting for you." 3 hours later, I walked into my father's penthouse office at the top of an unassuming building in the financial district, a building owned by a subsidiary of a shell company that ultimately belonged to Chen Global Holdings. 12 people waited around a conference table, all looking at me with various degrees of curiosity and apprehension. "This is the core team," Vivian murmured. "Legal, finance, operations, security, research, and intelligence." I nodded, squaring my shoulders as I took my seat at the head of the table. "My name is Emma Chen," I began, surprised at the steadiness in my voice. Until yesterday, I was a physician who believed her father was a middle management insurance executive. Today, I understand that I am the sole shareholder of an enterprise valued at over $3 trillion. I recognize I have much to learn, but make no mistake, I am my father's daughter, and I will protect what he built. I paused, making eye contact with each person. My first priority is handling Westlake Pharmaceuticals and their agents, including my soon-to-be ex-husband, Dr. Daniel Hamilton, and his accomplice, Dr. Tracy Collins. A silver-haired man, Lionel Park according to the place card, spoke up. Ms. Chen, we were deeply troubled to learn of Dr. Hamilton's connection to Westlake. We've prepared several options for how to proceed. Let me be clear, I said. I don't want them arrested. Not yet. I want them destroyed, professionally, financially, and socially. But more importantly, I want to understand exactly what they were after and who's really behind Westlake. My hand drifted unconsciously to my stomach. I'm carrying a child that Westlake would undoubtedly consider valuable for their research. They will come after me harder now that my father's gone. So we need to strike first. A woman with sharp eyes and a sharper suit, Sophia Reyes, Chief Legal Counsel, leaned forward. We can begin by freezing Dr. Hamilton's assets. Your father put certain measures in place that we can activate immediately. I thought about Daniel's smug face as he'd handed me divorce papers, believing he was leaving me with nothing while he started a new life with Tracy. Do it, I said. And I want a complete audit of Tracy Collins's medical practice. I suspect she's been harvesting genetic material from her patients without consent. Find her victims. The meeting continued for hours as I absorbed information about my father's empire, pharmaceutical innovations, technology patents, real estate holdings, and financial instruments so complex they made my head spin. But beneath the complexity was a clear purpose. My father had built a fortress to protect my mother's medical breakthroughs. By evening, Operation Phoenix was underway, my first act as head of Chen Global Holdings. As I stood at the window of my father's office, watching the sun set over San Francisco Bay, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Emma, please call me. They've frozen all my accounts. My card's been repossessed. What's happening? Daniel. I smiled for the first time since my father died. This is just the beginning, I whispered, deleting his message without replying. Behind me, Vivian cleared her throat. Ms. Chen, there's something else you should know. We've identified a mole within your father's organization, someone feeding information to Westlake. Someone in this building. I turned, my momentary satisfaction evaporating. Who? We don't know yet. But whoever it is was close to your father, and now, they are close to you. Before I continue, subscribe to this channel. 3 weeks after taking control of Chen Global Holdings, I sat in a private medical suite, staring at an ultrasound monitor while Dr. Elise Capu, a renowned obstetrician from the red folder of trusted individuals, moved the wand over my still flat abdomen. There, she said softly, pointing to the screen. Do you see? I squinted at the grainy image, emotion catching in my throat. Is that? Twins, Dr. Capu confirmed. 2 strong heartbeats. Twins. I was carrying twins. The revelation struck me with unexpected force, joy and terror mingling in my chest. Not 1 child to protect, but 2. I'd like to run additional genetic screening, given your family history, Dr. Capu said carefully. I nodded, understanding the unspoken concern. My mother's revolutionary research had been based on our family's unusual genetic makeup, some rare combination that had made cellular regeneration possible. It was what Westlake had been after all along. Do whatever tests you need, I said. But the results are classified at the highest level. Of course, she agreed. Though there's something else you should know. She hesitated, looking uncomfortable. What is it? I pressed. The preliminary blood work shows some anomalies. Similar to what was documented in your mother's research. I'd need to conduct more specialized tests to confirm, but if I'm right, these babies may carry the same genetic markers that made your mother's work possible. A cold knot formed in my stomach. If my babies carried those genetic markers, they would become targets, not just for Westlake, but for every pharmaceutical company and government that learned of their existence. No one can know about this, I said firmly. Absolutely no one. After leaving the medical suite, I was escorted to the penthouse that had become my new home, a fortress in the sky with bulletproof windows and a security team that never left the premises. My old house with Daniel had been emptied and sold, every trace of our life together erased. Vivian waited in the living room, her tablet in hand. How did the appointment go? Twins, I said, still processing the word myself. To her credit, Vivian's expression barely changed, though her posture straightened slightly. Congratulations, Ms. Chen. This complicates our security protocols. It complicates everything, I agreed, sinking into a chair. Any progress on identifying our mole? We've narrowed it down to 3 possibilities, she said, handing me her tablet. Lionel Park in finance, Avery Johnson in research, or Sophia Reyes in legal. I studied the dossiers, my mind racing. All 3 had been close to my father, all had access to sensitive information, and all had displayed small behavioral anomalies since I'd taken over. What does your gut tell you? I asked. Vivian rarely offered opinions, preferring facts, but after a moment she spoke. Sophia Reyes. Her financial patterns show irregular deposits to an offshore account, and she's requested access to your mother's research archives twice in the past week. I nodded slowly. Set a trap. Feed her false information about a breakthrough in the archive. Something Westlake would act on immediately. Already in motion, Vivian confirmed. Now, about Dr. Hamilton and Dr. Collins. A grim smile crossed my face. How are they enjoying their new circumstances? The past 3 weeks had been a systematic dismantling of Daniel and Trace's lives. Their assets frozen, medical licenses under review, a tax audit launched, their reputations quietly but thoroughly destroyed in professional circles. Daniel had been forced to move out of Trace's apartment and into a motel when they couldn't make rent. Dr. Hamilton attempted to access his trust fund yesterday, Vivian reported. He was informed that the trustees have placed it under review due to ethical concerns about his practice. He made quite a scene at the bank. I should have felt satisfaction, but instead, a hollow feeling spread through my chest. Revenge wasn't bringing my father back or healing the betrayal. It was, however, keeping them too busy to realize what I was really doing, tracing the connections back to the power players at Westlake. And the pregnancy? I asked. Vivian's expression tightened. Dr. Collins is approximately 5 months along. She's been attempting to sell her story to several tabloids, the devoted mistress abandoned by the husband who promised to leave his wife. None have bitten, thanks to our media contacts. I absorbed this, one hand resting protectively over my stomach. 2 innocent lives were caught in this web of betrayal, my twins and Trace's baby. Whatever I thought of their parents, the children were blameless. Ensure her prenatal care is covered, I said suddenly. Anonymously. The child shouldn't suffer for its parents' choices. Vivian looked surprised but made a note. Very well. There's one more thing, Daniel has been trying to contact you. Increasingly desperate messages. He's requesting a meeting. Why would I possibly agree to that? Intelligence suggests Westlake is cutting them loose. They've outlived their usefulness. He may be willing to provide information. I considered this. Set it up. Public place, maximum security. I want to look him in the eyes when he begs. The meeting was arranged for the following day at an upscale restaurant I now owned, one of thousands of properties in the Chen portfolio. I arrived early, seated at a private table with sight lines to all exits, Vivian and 2 security personnel positioned nearby. When Daniel entered, I barely recognized him. Gone was the confident surgeon with the perfect hair and bespoke suits. This man was haggard, unshaven, wearing clothes that hadn't seen an iron in days. Emma, he breathed, sliding into the seat across from me. Thank you for seeing me. You look different. I was different. Designer clothes, new haircut, the quiet confidence that came with power. What do you want, Daniel? They're going to kill us, he whispered, leaning forward. Tracy and me. Maybe the baby too. Westlake, they're not what I thought. I got in too deep. How unfortunate for you, I replied coldly. You don't understand, he hissed. They wanted your DNA, your father's research. When you froze our assets, they thought we'd talked. Now they think we're liabilities. And you've come to me for what? Protection? Money? Forgiveness? I laughed softly. After you used me for 8 years? His eyes darted nervously around the restaurant. I know who the mole is in your organization. I'll tell you everything I know about Westlake's operation. Just help us disappear. Please, Emma. Whatever you think of me, Tracy's carrying my child. I studied him, searching for any trace of the man I'd loved. There was nothing. So am I said quietly. Twins, actually. Not that you bothered to ask. The color drained from his face. Emma, A commotion at the restaurant entrance cut him off. 3 men in dark suits pushed past the host, moving with purpose toward our table. They're here, Daniel gasped, panic etching his features. They found me. As the first man reached inside his jacket, Vivian and my security team moved with practiced precision, intercepting them. But the flash of metal told me all I needed to know. Westlake hadn't just sent people to talk. They'd sent killers. Gunshots shattered the elegant ambience of the restaurant. Screams erupted as patrons dove under tables. My security team moved with military precision, Vivian tackling me to the ground while her colleagues engaged the Westlake assassins. Stay down, she ordered, shielding my body with hers. Through the chaos, I saw Daniel make a desperate break for the kitchen, abandoning me once again when danger struck. Typical. The firefight ended in seconds. 2 Westlake gunmen were down, the third restrained. Vivian helped me to my feet, her eye scanning me for injuries. Are you hurt, Ms. Chen? I placed a protective hand over my stomach. We're fine. My phone buzzed with an urgent alert, a security breach at Chen Tower. The trap we'd set had been sprung. It's happening, I said. The mole is making their move while we're distracted. We raced to Chen Tower, the city blurring past the bulletproof windows of my vehicle. My mind was churning, the assassination attempt, Daniel's warning, the simultaneous breach at headquarters. This wasn't coincidence. This was coordinated. In the secure elevator ascending to the research floors, Vivian received confirmation through her earpiece. We have the mole in custody, she reported. You were right. It was Sophia Reyes. But when we arrived at the containment room, I stopped short. The person sitting handcuffed to the chair wasn't Sophia Reyes. It was Lionel Park, my father's trusted finance chief. You? I breathed. The silver-haired man who'd guided me through my father's financial empire looked up, his distinguished features arranged in a mask of calm despite the circumstances. Hello, Emma. I was hoping we wouldn't end up here. Why? I demanded, my voice raw with betrayal. My father trusted you for 20 years. Your father, Lionel said bitterly, stole your mother's research and built an empire while keeping her greatest discovery locked away. Do you have any idea how many lives could have been saved by her regenerative therapy? Millions. Instead, he hoarded it, paranoid that it would be weaponized. So you decided to sell it to Westlake instead? I challenged. Westlake was just the vehicle, he said. The real buyer has always been the same, the military. Your mother's cellular regeneration technology in military hands could create soldiers who heal from almost any wound. Your father knew this. It's why he buried the research. I circled the table, studying the man who'd betrayed us. And Daniel? Tracy? Were they your recruits? A thin smile crossed his face. Daniel was ambitious and in debt from medical school. Tracy was brilliant but passed over for research grants. They were easy to turn. And now you've betrayed them too, I observed. Those men weren't sent to kill me. They were sent for Daniel. Loose ends, Lionel shrugged. But you're the real prize, Emma. You and those twins you're carrying. The Chen genetic markers. Perfect research subjects. Ice formed in my veins. How did you know about the twins? His smile widened. Dr. Kapoor works for me. Those tests she ran? They went straight to Westlake's lab. Vivian immediately spoke into her comm unit, dispatching a team to locate and secure Dr. Kapoor. It's too late, Lionel said. The genetic profiles have already been transmitted. They know exactly what your babies carry, the complete expression of the regenerative gene sequence. Even better than your mother's. I leaned across the table, a deadly calm settling over me. You've miscalculated, Lionel. Badly. Have I? My father taught me one thing above all else, always have a contingency plan. The tests Dr. Kapoor ran? They weren't on my blood. They were on a synthetic sample I provided, one designed to read as a perfect match for what Westlake is looking for, but fundamentally flawed. Any research based on that data will fail catastrophically. Doubt flickered in his eyes. Your colleagues at Westlake are currently downloading research protocols that, if implemented, will set their work back by decades. By the time they realize it, Chen Global will have consolidated complete control of the regenerative medicine field. It was a bluff, but one delivered with such conviction that uncertainty spread across Lionel's face. And Daniel? I continued. We picked him up in the restaurant's kitchen. He's trading everything he knows for protection. Naming names, locations, protocols. Westlake is finished, Lionel. You backed the wrong side. 24 hours later, I stood in my father's secret laboratory beneath Chen Tower, watching as his research team demonstrated what my mother had actually discovered, not just cellular regeneration, but targeted healing that could revolutionize medicine without military applications. We're ready to begin the first clinical trials, Dr. Wendy Liu, my mother's former research partner, explained. Your father always planned to release this to the world when the safeguards were in place. That time is now. I nodded, feeling the weight of legacy on my shoulders. And the security concerns? Westlake Pharmaceuticals has been dismantled, Vivian reported. Their executives are facing federal charges for conspiracy, corporate espionage, and attempted murder. Lionel Park is cooperating in exchange for leniency. And Daniel? Tracy. In protective custody. He's provided valuable intelligence. She's receiving prenatal care as you requested. I walked to the window overlooking the city, one hand resting on my growing belly. Release the first phase of my mother's research to selected medical centers, I instructed. It's time her work saved lives, just as she intended. 6 months later, I stood in a private hospital room, holding my newborn daughters, Lily and Rose Chen. Perfect, healthy, and under the most sophisticated security protocols ever implemented for civilians. As I gazed at their tiny faces, a nurse announced a visitor. Daniel stood in the doorway, looking uncertain. They let me come see them, he said quietly. Just once, before Tracy and I enter witness protection. I studied the man I had once loved, the father of my children, now a stranger preparing to disappear with another woman and their child. They're beautiful, he whispered, not daring to come closer. Yes, they are, I agreed. Emma, he began. Don't, I interrupted. There's nothing to say. You made your choices. I've made mine. He nodded, understanding the unbridgeable gulf between us. Tracy had a boy. We named him Robert. A peace offering, naming their son after my father. I wish him a good life, I said honestly. Far away from here. After he left, Vivian entered with the day's security briefing, pausing when she saw my tears. Are you all right, Ms. Chen? I looked down at my daughters, thinking of all they represented, the future of my family, the legacy of my parents' work, the responsibility now resting solely with me. My father once told me that in our family, love has always been our greatest strength, but also our greatest vulnerability, I said softly. I understand now what he meant. 1 year after my father's death, I stood at his grave beside my mother's, my daughters secure in the arms of their caretakers nearby. Chen Global Holdings had transformed into the Chen Foundation, the world's largest medical research organization. My mother's regenerative therapies were saving thousands of lives monthly, with strict protocols preventing military applications. You were right, Dad, I whispered to the quiet stone. The greatest power isn't in wealth, but in how we wield it. The betrayals had nearly destroyed me and my husband's deception, my father's secrets, the knowledge that I'd been a target from the beginning. But from those ashes, something stronger had emerged. I wasn't just Emma Chen, the abandoned wife or the grieving daughter. I was the phoenix my father had always believed I could be. And I had risen. Thank you for reading this story to its conclusion. I hope you enjoyed this emotional journey of betrayal, discovery, and ultimate triumph. What did you think of Emma's transformation? Were you surprised by the identity of the mole? Would you like to read more stories like this one? Please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means everything to me as a writer, and I'd love to know what kind of stories you'd like to see next.